Hi, I'm Erica Evans from Phantom Compass, head of production.
Hey, I'm Tony Walsh from Phantom Compass. I'm directing Rollers of the Realm Reunion.
So you guys talk about what this series Rollers of the Realm is all about for people who haven't heard of it. It's a really unique, fun franchise.
Erica, why don't you take that one?
Sure. Yeah, at its core, Rollers of the Realm mashes together kind of arcade pinball with RPG elements. So you have a party that are pinballs. Each hero in your party is a unique pinball, and you send them out with your flippers to do battle, beat some bad guys, collect some loot.
It's so interesting. I would have totally thought someone had done this before, but I've never seen or heard of it. I've seen pinball games in the past that were themed, but they weren't like, at the core, they were still pinball. Like, they didn't really have any new mechanics or interesting side mechanics. It was just, pinball themed Pokemon, right? Pinball themed Simpsons.
There's a few. Yeah, there's a few out there. Like, we were definitely inspired by Pinball Quest, which is a little bit like what we did, where there were little people on screen that you would try to hit with your pinball. Also, Devil's Crush, which I think had another name depending on the territory. So those were, if I recall correctly, NES games. Devil's Crush might have been on one of the Sega consoles. And then, like, kind of as a side relation, it might be games like Wizorb that have kind of ball physics, but also RPG elements, and maybe even Odama. Yeah. So definitely, like, inspired by some of the digital pinball mashups of a kind, but we just sort of took that a lot further.
So, like, that kind of leads into like where the inspiration came from, where the idea to expand on those ideas come from, with having each ball be a unique character and having the fantasy trope in the game as well. Like, how did that come about?
Erica, you want to grab that one?
Sure. Well, I mean, we
back in 2011.
I was going to say long time ago. We ended up there was a bunch of my friends from a AAA studio that ended up folding, and we all kind of, like, I was working at Phantom Compass, but they were all my friends from working together before, and we all kind of just like said, okay, let's just do something together while everybody's just like working on their portfolios, trying to get something new happening, and out of a brainstorm session, honestly, Rollers of the Realm was born. And we had I think at one point like 25 people working kind of part-time on the concept and get everything together way back in 2011, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, from a production standpoint, when we were thinking about what kind of a game we could make together, like, first of all, it was our little indie team that made short, small games and fast timelines, and then we paired up with a bunch of ex-AAA people who made great, big, expensive games over long timelines, and trying to see what we could learn from each other and how we could work together to deliver a game in something like a six-month timeline, which ended up being hilarious because it took 3 years to actually ship the game. But, a lot happens between concept, where wouldn't it be cool if we did this, to building our XNA version, which at the time we were going to launch it on Xbox Live, then realizing that it was pretty cool little 2D game that we had going. We were like, we really got to amp everything up, and that's when we switched everything over to Unity. We had gotten some really nice reactions from the initial prototypes at GDC, and we just knew we had to kind of keep pushing it and making it kind of more involved and more elaborate. So we chose to do a game with pinballs because we wanted to save money doing balls instead of human characters. So that was kind of the impetus for a ball physics game. We thought, what could we produce cheaply? And then it obviously became much, much more than that.
Yeah.
Can you guys talk about, like, obviously this is Rollers of the Realm Reunion. Like, what is it? Is it a remaster? Is it a completely new game? Is it like what is this exactly?
Yeah, it's a sequel to the original game. So we're super stoked to actually be able to do a sequel. It's my first sequel that I've worked on. So I'm really excited to take the characters and the storyline from the original 2014 Rollers video game and then evolve all of that into a sequel where we continue the storyline, but we do it in a way where everyone who played the first game is going to get some really cool insider they're oh my God, it's that guy, or this happened. And then for everybody else, they're just going to still experience an epic story campaign that they can play through just like the first game. But we're amping up a lot of the features, refining a lot of the features, and providing a lot more pinball punch in the sequel.
It's been several years since the original game. How have advances in technology help improve the sequel, and has it made your job easier, harder?
The entire game is generated on a neural network and rendered in you know what, we got better as a studio. Our capabilities and our experience increased, and we really leveraged a lot of design learning from the original game. So for us, it's not so much of a technology play. This is kind of a casual to mid-core game, so really, like, it's not a game that pushes into like AAA territory at all. It's very cute, whimsical, cozy, and fun. And so really what we did was we spent our time in designing a much more cohesive game structure or RPG structure that works really well with the pinball system. It already did, and we just took everything that we liked and we just moved it forward. And then around the juice aspect of gameplay, so everything's way punchier, way more kind of juicy to play with. And it's not really a technology advancement as much as a design one.
What goes into designing these unique tables? Because like they're not true pinball tables, but they have elements of that, and they have to be, fun to play, obviously, with the placement of the people, and they have to be, far enough away to hit. Like, what goes into that design concepts? Those concepts.
So there's definitely legacy traditional pinball that does surface in this game throughout. So the first game, the 2014 game, there was literal table designs that we really borrowed heavily from to make that game. And in the sequel, there are also some tables like that too, but we learned that, traditional pinball tables, which are portrait orientation, don't work super well on landscape screens. And so most of our gameplay, we're kind of having a perspective where the gameplay kind of recedes into the distance, and there's a lot more lateral gameplay that's happening. So we really take a lot of inspiration from traditional pinball, but then we're really making these kind of medieval 3D scenes that are more than just a thematic element. They actually help to tell the story of what's happening. What makes our game unique is that although your heroes are pinball characters, there are little human enemies on screen that kind of take the place of traditional pinball, pop bumpers and kickers and all those kind of things. They're there in the pinball field for you to kind of interact with and get shots off of and into and all that kind of stuff. So I think we definitely, we actually in this game, we go beyond just regular pinball. We have even side-scrolling platformer, parkour, top-down stealth. So some very interesting changes in game modes as you play this, but it always comes back to some kind of traditional pinball aspect in the end.
So my next question is, like, how have the stay-at-home orders affected the development of Rollers of the Realm Reunion, if at all?
Well, we were fortunate enough to be already set up as a remote office, so all of our workers were already working from home offices. But that said, we have a lot of parents in our company with, kids who are school age, having to do online school on and off, just that distraction and just honestly the stress of living day to day, like everyone in the world was living with, definitely did take its toll. I do feel like the kind of like the story and the tone of the game honestly has kind of like, it helped keep at least me personally kind of invigorated, that it's a story of hope and it's a story of working together, so those themes in general, are like, I was very grateful to have that as what my day-to-day at work being, compared to, some other content that might not have been quite so, inspiring, so it was a bit of a nice escape.
It is interesting, like especially with the kids in the pandemic, is like, usually if you work at home already, you're always like, okay, well, I have to get this done before 3 because, the kids are going to come home and it's going to be, I'm never going to get this done. So you have to double time it. But now they're just there all the time, and it could be really difficult to adjust and to that work experience, that workflow.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I know like a lot of our kids, you know, that was all another thing that was nice, you know. So some of us have younger kids, or my kids are a little bit older, but you know, as they're like wandering around and behind, you know, as you're playing or you're testing or you're developing, you know, it's nice to have that content. That's what was on your screen. So there was nothing, because as you can see, I'm in an open office. We've got another. My husband also works in games, and sitting behind me. So you know, it's you know, I don't even have an office door.
Right. So can you guys talk about the different classes in this sequel and like how the balls interact and how that works, since they're technically pinballs that work, that you bash around in this game?
Yeah, that's really the core of the game. So it's a party-based system. It's a class-based system. So we have the rogue, who is the most agile character. We have the knight, who's the most damage-dealing, tanky character. We have the mage, who has some pretty weird chaos magic. And we have the healer, who helps to keep your flippers alive. There's also a fifth character that I won't talk about, that you'll have to find more about later on, but we have this pool of available heroes. Now, in the first game, we let you add up to 10 party members, which is a lot of party members to kind of memorize their different stats and abilities and statistics. In our game, in the sequel, we narrowed that down to 5 characters that you would have to learn their special abilities and their stats. The balls are even differentiated physically, so the knight ball is larger than the rogue ball, and what that means is the knight actually has a harder time. You have a harder time losing the knight ball, but an easier time losing the rogue ball. So the rogue doesn't have as good defense, but the knight has really good defense. One aspect about the game as well is that our flippers kind of represent your defense system and kind of your hit points as well. And so the flippers get attacked by enemies, and you as a party have to defeat the enemies before your flippers get too worn down, or defeat enemies to grab loot, to grab healing potions to heal your flippers back up. And so in the game, you can actually hot swap between available party members. So you'll pick 3 heroes, and of those 3 heroes, you can instantly swap during gameplay. This is faster than the original game. The original game, you had to bring your ball to a specific spot on the pinball board. Now you can switch wherever you want. And what that does is it sets you up for tag team types of attacks. So we have a system in the game called marking, which is where if an enemy is knocked down or a magic spell cast on them by one of the heroes, they're marked temporarily. And during that marking period, if you switch to the rogue character, she can deal massive critical damage while they're kind of disoriented. And you can set each other up for different types of combo attacks. The mage has a fantastic dash ability. Dash is something we added to the game as well. So you can slow time, aim your pinball in motion, release from a new trajectory, and demolish enemies as you zip through the pinball field then in real-time speed. And the mage drops down this vast firewall as she goes, and people are burning up everywhere. So we really juiced up the special abilities, and the dash abilities are a really cool new addition to the game. So your heroes represent your party abilities in any playfield. You can change your roster between playfields, and also we have now in the new game party buffs. So your assortment of the characters you choose, not only do they have individual differences, but they kind of add to your party abilities. Like, do you draw loot from further distance because you stacked up certain characters in a certain way, and upgrades play into that as well. The original game had like 100 upgrades or something. We've really narrowed things down for this one. So again, you can really learn and experience what the differences are in a very more, in a deeper way than the first game, where the differences between upgrades wasn't as clear. So when you add all that stuff up together, you get individual heroes with awesome abilities, and then you get these cool party buffs, which is a new part of the game.
When you summon another ball in, another character in, is it another ball? Does the ball transform into the character you currently activate? So do you have multiple balls on the screen at once, or just the one that changes?
Yeah, you actually can have multiple balls on screen at once. Usually there's one hero ball in play. The rogue ball has a pet dog who is kind of the subject and the star of the first game. The dog makes a second appearance in the sequel. And so as the rogue, when you power up, you can summon the dog, which is a multi-ball, but you can swap heroes at any time, and the ball just changes to the new hero ball and changes to the new hero ball. So as the rogue, you can summon the dog, then switch to the knight, and the knight and the dog can tag team together. So it offers some pretty cool tactical opportunities.
It's interesting because like this is a pinball game at its core, but it would never. I mean, would this ever translate into a physical space at all? You think? Is there any way you could make that? Probably not.
I think there's parts of it that you could. You know, we've talked here at the studio about, you know, after we're done this game, you know, do we want to take a crack at more traditional pinball? And I think there's like very heavy themed aspects that you can bring into kind of traditional pinball play with these characters. Some of it you can only do in a video game. But I think there's things around puzzle solving and what parts of the board are locked or unlocked, parts of boards that are only accessible to certain characters. That, I mean, there are some traditional pinball tables that have some of those features, but I do think there's things you could bring back into traditional pinball.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. You mentioned the firewall. I'm like, how would you even do that? Like,
yeah, I think that's an example of digital only, but I certainly gating and certain types of targets.
I'd love to be able to play with different sizes of and weights of the balls too.
That's something I've never heard of in traditional pinball, is differently sized. I revised that. There is a game I played where you ended up with a mini pinball on a mini pinball table inside the pinball table. So that would have been the Simpsons game, if I remember right, or maybe it was Family Guy. But yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool. Different size pinballs.
Yeah, it's interesting because for a pinball table, like it has to be that ball because the whole design is around that shape and that size and that weight, right? And throwing anything else in there, kind of, it's just in design throws everything else off, right? And everyone loses their mind.
You could definitely have lanes where the one ball is locked and a new ball gets released into that lane, and then it's like, you know, kind of changes things up a bit. But yeah, I mean, maybe that'll be somebody else's design problem. We may end up sticking with digital.
What when does your game come out and what platforms will it be on?
So we're looking at 2022 release. I'm hoping for Q1. A lot of this depends on how our current, we did a whole big set of revisions. So we're just sort of like working through those still in the QA that goes along with that. So it'd be probably Q1 or Q2. We're also looking for a good publishing partner. So although we're currently self-publishing on Steam and the Epic Games Store, we'd really love somebody to kind of help us break through all the noise on console. Retail for the game is, I believe, $24.99. Could get that right. And again, if you look for it on Steam or the Epic Games Store, I think you can wishlist it right now and then hopefully get notified when it's closer to release.
Now, I know that like console, it can be its own challenge just because of certification and optimization, and sometimes small teams don't have the budget to do all that stuff. But did your team ever look at the Nintendo Switch? Because I know there are very few games, but there are a few that support it vertically. You know, the Nintendo Switch vertically.
Yeah, I mean, all of our tables are landscape orientation, actually. So it would be cool to do a vertically oriented game for Switch. I mean, we have Switches here. We're developing some things for Switch. More information on console release to come. But currently, yeah, I mean, we'd love to hit all three majors if we could.
How about Nintendo? How about Nintendo gives you money to make exclusive vertical boards on their platform? That sounds like a great idea.
I sure would love that.
Give them money.
Ted Rogalski, if you're listening to this, get in touch, please.
Yes, please, Mr. Bowser. Please give the studio money so they can make cool pinball boards on your Switch platform.
Yeah. We'll take it from whoever we can get it from.
And in the meantime, where can people go to support your game? How can they, help? Can they wishlist it? Like, what can they do to help you get prepped up for your big Steam release?
Yeah, give us a wish list and follow on Steam and wish list on the Epic Store. We're there. You can also find our Discord and come join us there and be kind of in the know and kind of know.
Yeah, on the web we're at phantomcompass.com and also rollersoftherealm.com, and on Twitter we're at Phantom Compass and at Realm Rollers.
Yeah, see, it's perfect. See, your company's even called Phantom Compass because I immediately think of like Zelda and the Phantom Hourglass.
Right.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. So like, it's a match made in heaven. Nintendo, contact them. Let's make this relationship happen. Come on, let's do this.
I'm down.